I was standing in a recent sculptural installation of mine called the NINFEO. And like a lot of my work, it's concerned with making connections between the audience themselves and the site, and especially this increasing fractured and fragile relationship between ourselves and the environment. And what was interesting about this project was, in a way, it was trying to sort of create new context and celebrate maybe the essence of the site and what actually happens here in terms of the environment, the architecture, and probably more essentially within the building itself. And what really struck me, working with Kent from Aidan Darling Architects, we spent quite a long time just trying to find the actual position where a sculpture, where an installation could be within the building. Should it be suspended? Should it be large? Should it be sort of small? And it kind of felt that it should be at the heart of the building. It should be in the centre, kind of emanating its idea, but also responding very much to the site. And what really struck me was its proximity to the Dell, which is about 200-300 yards away from it, and the landscape architecture is really beautiful within the sort of site. And somehow I was trying to draw out this latent power, this latent connection between us as humans, as people, and water. We're all over 60% water ourselves, and it was to make this connection between us. I was also really keen to create something which was ever changing. It wasn't an object which just kind of exuded its presence. I wanted to do something which responded both to the site and the audience, its experience within the sculpture. So I imagined a space. So this is as much as a space as it is an object. And so what we did, we put some sensors and an infrared camera in we call them buoys in the States. I think you call them buoys. Yeah. In the Dell itself. And what that does, there's a 24-hour live data feed which is continually sort of documenting the currents, the fish, the reeds, and the water lilies within that body of water. And then we transform that data signal and we turn it into light and sound. So the idea within this sculpture called NINFEO, it's a real live response to what's happening within the water 200-300 yards away. So this idea that it's ever changing, it's a conversation between you and the natural world. It's not something sort of static, that you feel you're at the centre of the experience. The word NINFEO, it's actually comes from the word originally in Roman sort of Greek times. These were amphitheatres which celebrated the presence of water nymphs, and this idea that this is like a non-secular space in as much, but it feels, and I wanted it to have like a sense of spirituality, I suppose, that there's this kind of connection between where you could kind of come here on your own with sort of friends within a sort of small group. Could be a space of meditation, a reflection, and the fact that it always changes, it's ever evolving, it's never the same. So if you kind of came here on 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, it would feel maybe quite different to what it would feel like on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Each one of these blocks, and there's nearly 4,000 of them, these are laser-etched 3D drawings of water lilies. So what my sort of studio did, we got some real kind of water lilies, scanned them, 3D scanned them, and then took them apart very much how maybe like a fashion designer would do. And so you kind of unskin it, and then we printed out almost like the flat pattern of how one would make up the skin of a water lily. And then I drew over these, rescan them, put them to the computer, then put them back together again. So these, what you can see, these are all unique. Each one of these blocks is unique, and it's the 3D drawings of water lilies. Each one of these blocks has between 500,000 and 1 million tiny little fractured explosions where two lasers will kind of come together and make tiny, tiny little kind of cracks. And then what happens as the data feed triggers and informs the light and the sort of sound, you get these gentle, elegant washes which illuminate at some point, say for example this block here, then it go back into the darkness. So there's this elegant ebb and flow, I suppose. The soundscape, which you can hear, is all in the key of C. The earth, everything resonates, everything has a vibration. So I chose the key of C because the earth resonates in the key of C, as do a lot of previous work that I've done with bees, apple trees. So to me that was important. And we wrote a library of sounds, these complementary sort of sounds which are recorded, and depending what's happening in the Dell, they will trigger the sound. So not only is the light responding to what's happening in the Dell, the soundscape is also responding. So say for example, at certain moments, if a fish goes past the camera, it will trigger a sound like a higher ding 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 sort of sound. And so it's I suppose this idea that you're in the moment. You know, it's not something that you. And I think these days that's so important. We're so bombarded, I think, by information, by what's happening in our lives, the outside world, in terms of kind of media, social kind of media. And somehow it feels that it's important maybe just to be centered, to maybe kind of realize what's important, what's not important, maybe to go back to the essential in life. And so when you enter this space, it's even though it's very much connected to the site, it's very much connected kind of what's going here in terms of the architecture and the environment and the idea. You feel that hopefully you've entered like another world. It's almost like it's a portal into something else. So, you know, you could stop here for 30 seconds or 3 hours. We have speakers secreted around the space itself, so the sound itself is always kind of moving. It's not static. It doesn't feel like a stereo image. And inside the bench itself, we've got a couple of subwoofers which transmit the bass. So when you actually sit on the bench itself, the vibrations of the soundscape goes through your body. So it's a physical, visceral experience rather than say something which is just purely sort of sonic and which is over there. And this idea how the vibrations of the site can enter your body is again really important. That can be really healing. It can be really kind of helpful. And I think for those kind of moments, it can really focus you, to really be in the moment. And I think and believe more and more that's so important to us all. And so I was also very keen that this is the audience and the idea and the site coalesce. So say for example, when one walks through and past these thousands of kind of blocks, there are sensors which will track you. So as you walk past this part of you, say for example, will start to get lighter and lighter and lighter. So you're having a direct influence on what the sculpture is. So it's not static. It's not just coming from me. It's not just coming from the Dell. The audience itself can kind of curate their own experience. They have a direct impact on what this piece is, which again is really important. So I think there's a way then of engaging with the artwork. It's not static. It's not something which is beaming something at you. The fact there's a conversation between you and the artwork itself, which again I think is really important. You know, it's not like maybe going into a gallery where something's presented to you and somehow it's put on a pedestal and it just simply exudes itself. This is very immersive, interactive, and it feels like the audience is at the centre of the experience, which to me is really important. to me, this piece of work, it kind of sort of feels like it's the beating heart of the building itself, and to me that was really important. It's important sometimes when you look at how one imagines an artwork, not what just to do, but what not to do. And this very much, like, hopefully all my work, it feels like it really needs to respond to the architecture and to the site. And so again, the positioning of this was really important, that it was right in the center of the building, and it responds and talks to the architecture within it, just in terms of how the wood is and the colours. It gets darker and darker as one walks into it. But to me, it really sort of felt it shouldn't be like an alien intervention, which just kind of gets plonked here. It needs to feel like it's kind of grown from the building itself. And that's not only just the idea, but how it's kind of manifest. So to me, that's really important. I think when I create pieces of work like this, it's a kind of two-way thing. One thing is, it's part of it is intentional, and then part of it is allowing a sense of the unknown, the sense of kind of chaos to be kind of part of it. And I think sometimes that's what can be really helpful as an artist, is knowing when to intervene and when not to intervene. So I had a sense here of maybe what the piece should feel like, maybe what it should look like, and hopefully a sort of sense that the audience, and whether that's young or old, from any kind of country, so it kind of goes beyond language. To me, that was really important. That they have a sense of be a sense of calmness, be a sense of kind of reflection, to be a sense of that they'll be not just connected to the site, but also to themselves and to the environment. And to me, that's really important. But we're all different. My experience in here will be very different to yours, just in terms of how we perceive colour, how I feel in the morning, how I feel in the evening. So in a way, it's a canvas for people to respond intuitively to what they're feeling, to kind of either magnify or hopefully kind of calm. And in a way, it's like if you can, to me, create this sort of space where things can be simpler. It can really sort of focus your mind on what's important to you or what's not important to you. So in a way, it's almost a way of cleansing, a way of just clearing your mind and maybe focusing on what's really important. And that, to me, doesn't really matter whether you're a 5-year-old, a 50-year-old, a 100-year-old, or whether you're from the UK, the US, or Peru. It's these things are kind of universal. And so I think as an artist, you can put things out into the world, and then it's really open to how the audience responds to and works with. I've got no control over that, and nor would I wish to. And I think that's the thing with art. You have an idea, you create it, and you put it out into the world, and what people take from it, that's part of their journey. And to me, it's always fascinating and intriguing, kind of hearing people what they have to say or what they felt. Some people I've spoken to have been in this sort of space, have been through recent trauma or bereavement, and have found it very helpful, very relaxing, found it quite emotional. Other people I've sort of talked to have just experienced a passage of real joy, and they kind of come into it, and it elevates that sense of how they're kind of sort of feeling. And I've got no control or no idea what people do or how they feel in here. So to me as an artist, it's really interesting to hear their responses and their experiences, and then I kind of do the work, and then it's out there in the world, really. It's then down to others to take from it what they wish. In terms of the details, and I suppose how I imagined this to be, in a way it's a cross between the analog and the digital. So one can imagine each one of these blocks is almost like a pixel in itself, but within this pixel there's like another little world. So one of these worlds is almost like a microcosm in itself, so you can read it on a macro and a micro sort of scale. The idea of kind of pulling and pushing these blocks in and out was kind of really important, so it didn't feel kind of flat. It felt sort of sculptural. It felt there was something, or there is something intriguing. It seduces you and lets you in, so you can look at it from details, from kind of angles, the way the light picks it up on the sides, the refraction of the light, a sense of that you can't quite grasp it. You don't really understand it the first time you see it. You don't know how the lighting works. So, for example, you don't see the source of light, you don't see where the speakers are. So, to me, there's trying to create that sense of kind of mystery. And so, even though there's a lot of technology within the piece itself, to me it's really important that it's hidden, it's secreted. So one isn't aware of the technology, one's just aware, hopefully, of what the experience is. And I think one of the great joys, I suppose, about being an artist, like in the 21st century, you can do things now which you couldn't do like 100 years or 2,000 years ago. Like in Roman times, Greek times, they would paint murals on the wall with egg tempera of, potentially lilies or water nymphs, and there'd be something really amazing about that, but it's flat, and 2,000 years later those drawings fade through time. So there's this sort of sense of kind of palimpsest. There's this sense of that it's very evocative. And more recently, like say for example, I love Claude Monet's later works, especially the water lilies. And there's a couple of rooms which you'll be aware of. The one in Paris, there's one in London as well, where ones are surrounded by water lilies. So in a way, that was a really early installation. But what's amazing about, say, Claude Monet's water lilies is that even though they're flat paintings, you have a sense that they are portals into somewhere else. You can kind of almost like dive into them. So in a way, this is like a 21st century version of that, inspired by that, And so to me, it's rooted in kind of art history, but it's very much kind of the now. And for me, what was really interesting, I think really satisfying about this project, so I paint, I create music, and also kind of sort of sculpt, and it's kind of brought all these things together in an architectural space. So there's science, maths, all these things kind of coalesce. Like when I was younger, I used to think that art and science and maths were completely sort of separate kind of disciplines. And as I've kind of got older, I realised everything's connected. And so being inspired by science, the natural world, by maths, by repetition, the beautiful geometry which one can find in the smallest of Fibonacci spirals, which one can find in a snail or the Milky Way, that to me is really inspiring. And so for a project like this, I would kind of cut with the idea or use past experience, sketch these things out, but this happens with a whole team of people. There was probably 20-25 people that actually made this kind of happen, just in terms of how the blocks were etched, how it was installed, how it was made. And but I think that what I'm really happy about this piece on a number of levels is that the technology and the actual sort of structure itself is just hidden. You walk into here and hopefully you get a sense of being transported to somewhere else, and you're not conscious of really how it's made. So it goes beyond the physical into something hopefully metaphysical. So the word NINFEO is actually it's an Italian spelling of the word nymphaeum, and an nymphaeum historically was used in Greek and Roman times, and typically they would be small grottos or little amphitheatres, and they would be like a celebration of water. So potentially there would be either little statues or paintings of water nymphs, and there's this idea that there's this connection between the audience, the viewer, and water itself. And so that's where it kind of comes from. So it's very much an installation and a sculpture of the 21st century, but in terms of it's rooted in something a lot more kind of ancient and elemental. And to me that was important.